Valentine's is right around the corner, my crafty friends, and I am late. I want to thank you for coming back to my channel, and let's get started on my very first Valentine's card of the year. So today we're going to use the Heart Happiness Stampin' Up set. We're going to use this little flower image. We're using a 4 by 5 1/4 piece of white cardstock from Stampin' Up and Versamark ink. I'm using a small acrylic block, and we are going to stamp all over our cardstock and make a background. I have put together a list of supplies at the end of the video, so you'll know what we're using today. I'm bringing in some clear embossing powder. The container is from Stampin' Up block stamps that I have kept. I'm going to use a clothespin here because I tend to burn my fingers with the heat gun. So we're going to melt all that down. And I've sped it up to save you the time. And we're going to bring in Bundled Sage and Victorian Velvet Distress Oxide inks. And we're going to use those fabulous blending brushes that I love and blend this ink across the background. While I'm blending away, I wanted to let you know that I have a Facebook page, also called the Craft Corner, that I would like for you to join me at. It's for everybody to share your crafty love. It doesn't have to be card making, it can be whatever it is you're into. We're going to spray our background with the Distress Mister. And while that sits there and dries, we will start stamping our images for the front. I'm taking that Bundled Sage and this heart stamp, and I'm just using a scrap piece of paper. And we will stamp that image out. And I am going to fussy cut these. Not big on the fussy cutting, but I managed. Now we're going to use the Victorian Velvet and use another one of the heart images. Oh, no, I'm not. No, what I'm actually doing is basically making my own colored paper. So I'm bringing in the red, and we are going to use this Beyond Plaid stamp set. And it is sadly retired, but I love this stamp set. And we're going to stamp that over our pink. Then I bring in, this is a Stampin' Up punch, and we're going to punch that out. There's the third stamp out of that same set that I used. And we're going to bring in a different heart punch. Punch that out in black cardstock to put on the back of that littlest heart. So I'm bringing in the Distress Sprayer, and we're going to spray these 3 hearts with the water and dry those off. Now, I probably should have used some watercolor paper or something a little heavier than the Stampin' Up, because the Stampin' Up isn't that heavy and it really curled them up, but once you dry them, they flattened out, so it worked out. I'm going to take this sponge and some VersaFine Clear Nocturne, and we're going to ink up the edges of our base there. Now we're going going to bring in some Stampin' Up! Ink, and we're going to ink up all the edges of those little hearts. And I do apologize. I go off camera because it's a little too far for me, but this is a Stampin' Up! Like distresser tool. It kind of rags out the edges. Now this, they don't sell this anymore, but Tim Holtz does have a version available now. So I finished that with all 3 of those. And now we are going to stamp the sentiment. And I struggled a bit, so we just kind of showed some phases here. I had to cut my stamp apart, or actually I didn't want to cut it apart, but I wanted it in a straight line. So I used my positioner and it ended up being just fine. I did manage getting that done. Now if you look close, you're going to see that I am putting foam adhesive on the back of our base, but the card that's sitting there, ta-da, is white. But if you looked at the opening picture, it is black, which I changed my mind. And I don't know about some of you guys, but after I sit and look at it for a little while, it's like, there is something wrong. So I cut the base from that white card and I put it on a black card, which I ended up liking a lot better. So I'm just putting some adhesive, and I know I don't ever tell you what kind of adhesive I use. It's the Berry Art Precision Craft Glue, and I just put it in that little bottle. And I'm sticking that to our base. We put an acrylic block on it, and then I put some foam tape up on the one heart. And I put that all together on the card base, and I keep going off of camera. I gotta work on that. So here I am making my own colored paper again, which I love that you can make any color paper that you want with ink pads. I almost never buy colored cardstock anymore. I put that on our sentiment, on our white card base, and I pop that up with some foam squares. And like magic, there's the black card. I wanted to finish this off with putting some little shiny dudes on my hearts. I struggled a bit with the adhesive on these. I'm not sure why. And I had a little boo-boo there. You probably couldn't see it where the pink had splattered when I sprayed it. So this worked out well. It helped hide my boo-boo. And there is our finished project. I'm going to show you a list of all the things that I used to make this, and I did not realize how many products I used till I started doing this. So we have our platform, which is a staple pretty much anymore. We have the Fabulous Flamingo stamp set. I just used the one stamp from that. The Heartfelt, that was what I used on the inside. Beyond Plaid, that was the one we used. Heart Happenings, we used the 3 out of there. My clear embossing powder. And you gotta remember, you can substitute anything you have. You do not have to go out and purchase all these things. We have the Bundled Sage, the Victorian Velvet, Candied Apple of the Distress Oxides, the Versafine Clear Nocturne, Versamark, Magenta Madness for our Stampin' Up, and Garden Green. There's a Tim Holtz poker tool, blending brushes, black Stampin' Right marker, scissors, my glue gun, adhesive, dots, water sprayer, foam tape, heat gun, stamp cleaner, acrylic blocks, and blending sponges. Thank you very much for joining me today, and remember to share the crafty love. Until next time, this is Brandy Keller's Craft Corner.